Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don,
My name is Jonathan.
and today we are talking about the 2025 Best Picture nominated film Bugonia. It stars Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, and it is directed. Remind me of the director's name if you can.
Hugo Morgensen. Hugo
Yeah,
Morgensen, I think.
he's directed some other sort of.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of give let the cat out of the bag a little. Some other sort of oddball-ish type of films,
Yes.
like The Killing of a Sacred Deer, if you've ever seen that wild film. This is also a really wild film, and for a long while, I think what I said early on when we first were discussing it by text was that it starts out as this sort of creepy,
Yeah.
um, is kidnapping,
Kidnapping, violent kind of thing.
psychodrama, and
Yeah.
then just turns a corner and goes a completely different direction in the end. And it's, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, I will say this. I watched it early in the week, which I don't often do with the films that we talk about.
Yeah.
And so I had a little opportunity to do some more research on it, finding in particular like the actor who plays Donnie in the film. He is portrayed as someone on the autism spectrum,
Mhm.
and he actually is that actor, that person in real life is
Oh,
on the
cool.
autism spectrum.
Great.
So nailed it.
Yeah.
But also kind of some of the themes and the ideas in it. And I appreciate the film a little more,
Yeah.
having done some of that background stuff. But as a critic I used to follow many years ago would say, you shouldn't have to know the source material to enjoy the film.
Yeah. That's true.
So, like I shouldn't have to go and do a lot of research to be able to enjoy the film necessarily. That being said, it's not the worst film I've seen this year.
No.
It's still not better than Sinners,
No. Yeah.
which I did watch again this week just because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Um, but where do you want to start, John? Where do you want to start with
I
this?
I don't know. I thought this was a really interesting conversation about in a weird way, the maybe even the weirdness included. I feel like this could be a patron saint of this podcast because in a lot of ways it is a conversation about what I think we're trying to do, which is we're trying to help people not see people that disagree with them as aliens or other. And I felt like this movie did a really interesting job about forcing people that come from the world in different ways to actually dialogue and to actually attempt to, they do it in really broken ways, but attempt to hear and understand and actually talk with one another.
Yeah, it is like for certain. So Jesse Plemons' character is this sort of downtrodden everyman. He's and for those who have not seen the film, the basic premise is there's these two fellas, Jesse
Yeah,
Plemons is one, who kidnap this rich woman who's the CEO of a drug company,
yeah,
thinking that she is an alien
yes,
and that they're going to broker some kind of peace with the alien race before they destroy the world.
yeah,
Um, so this is why it comes off initially as this sort of psychotic,
yeah.
you know, thing. And I don't know, do we give the ending away?
Yeah, I think again we're going to spoil.
It's,
We'll do
you
spoiler alert, spoiler.
probably can't not spoil it and still talk about it.
But to me, the interesting aspect was Jesse Plemons' character, which honestly I feel like he should get like there should be an award about the ability to play a creepy stalker because he's done that in several films and he does it amazingly well.
Really well.
Um,
Scarily well,
yes,
perhaps.
but his mother has been injured by a product created by this company
Mm-hmm.
that that I'm blanking on her name, um, but that she runs.
Oh, yeah, Michelle.
Michelle runs,
Yeah.
and he essentially wants. I mean, although he's created in his head that she's an alien, which in the end it turns out he's correct. He's a, but he's created this very weird idea about what happened. But you can see in a really powerful way this conversation that needs to happen between, for lack of a better term, the working class and the elites, between people that oftentimes create products that hurt people and the people that get hurt by these products. And he essentially wants justice, and he wants his mom to regain her health. Like she's in a coma. He wants her to be freed from that. And to me, that is a really powerful conversation we need to help people have. We have really stratified our culture. We've created boundaries. We've created kind of, you're in this camp, I'm in this camp. And we need people to actually care for and dialogue with one another. And even though this movie shows really broken ways of doing that, I think it's trying to get out the idea that we have turned. I don't know how you read it, but one of the major themes I felt like I saw was the director here was making a commentary about how we have the people that we don't agree with aren't just bad or aren't bad actors, or they're people that aren't just wrong. They're literally aliens. They're literally from
Mm-hmm.
another planet,
Yeah,
and that's a very dangerous
they're the
place to
enemy,
be.
they're demons, they're the devil, they're yeah,
And
because we
that's a
disagree.
very bad place for our culture to be in.
Sure. I tell you, one of the things that I think stuck out for me was just to try to discern what was the breaking point for Jesse's character. What's his
Yeah.
name?
Um,
Teddy. Yeah.
Teddy.
What is Teddy's breaking point? Because there's so many things here. Okay, he has an overprotective mother. I heard about a scene that was taken out of the film where his mother, when he was a child, was wrapping him in tinfoil,
Yeah.
to protect him from the aliens, and
Yeah.
so he's got this helicopter mom,
Yeah.
who then becomes sick, and she's like his whole world, and then there's this side storyline with the local police officer who was his babysitter when he was a kid, and the innuendo is that this guy sexually abused him as a
Yeah.
child. He's taking care of his cousin who is again on the autistic spectrum, and what is Teddy's breaking point? What was it that brought him to the place where he, at least for the majority of the film, seems so delusional that this CEO is responsible for the world collapsing, the bee population going away, and we're all going to die, and it's her fault, and he's just going to broker a peace with the alien race by getting an audience with the alien emperor through I mean,
Yeah.
it's the whole film, like, he's crazy,
Yes.
and you just like, what is the breaking point? What brought him to that crazy breaking point?
Yes.
What was this accumulation of things that got him there?
What was to me it's this idea of what is the what fuels the increase we've seen about conspiracy theories. To me, that's part of this conversation. You
Sure.
know, it's not just I feel like not anymore. It's not just a country made a bad decision or a company put out a bad product. It now has to be this larger thing,
Yeah.
this grand thing where the Jews are doing something, or rich people are doing something, or
Yeah.
or the Rothschilds. It can't just
Mhm.
be anymore. This company screwed up, or this country did a bad thing. It has to
Made a
be kind
poor
of this
decision.
deeper thing.
Right.
And what I thought was interesting, I'm guessing it was chosen for this reason, but did you notice that they several times during the movie show what is a representation of a flat Earth? So if you go like to flat Earth conspiracy theories, that's usually the image you'll see is of the Earth being
As a
flat
disc.
with just
Yeah.
with just mountains around it, you know.
Hmm.
And to me that kind of fueled my thought that he was making some comments about conspiracy theories, you know, that but to me, well, to me, a good example is like JFK, right? Um, we, for some reason, can't wrap around our heads around the idea that a really broken, for lack of a better term, loser guy killed the president of the United States. So
Hmm.
it can't be just that. It has to be the CIA. It has to be the mafia. It has to be Russians. You know, it
Hmm.
has to be Cuba. It has to be this larger thing because we can't deal with the fact that single people can really cause havoc. You know that
Yeah.
simple things can do devastating reality. You know, and to me, it's what was interesting is there is a bee problem like that actually exists,
Mhm. Yeah.
and there are things we have to deal with to address it. But what I thought was fascinating was at one point. Um, Donnie and Michelle have this conversation about the bees, and he's throwing out these conspiracy theories about, you know, of course the aliens are trying to kill the bees and take over, and she brings up all of these really salient points about, well, couldn't it be climate change, couldn't it be this, couldn't it be, you know, basically couldn't it be these normal things that we are responsible for that
Hmm.
we need to address instead of creating this conspiracy theory that's too big for us to handle,
Yeah.
you know. And I feel like we're really stuck in that as a culture where instead of taking personal responsibility and communal responsibility, we create these problems that we can't address because it's just too big and it's run by too many different people.
I think there's something that feeds into that as
Yeah,
well. And that is, and you know, we're going to circle back. We've circled on this thing a lot,
yeah,
okay? But it is the availability of things like social media,
yeah,
and you know, instant information,
yeah,
and then you have confirmation bias, right? So people hear something that appeals to what they already believe, and so that is the story. There's no other story.
yeah,
You know, there's no anything that is contrary to that. It's a lie. It's made up. It's fake news. You know, whatever it is, right? And I have seen. I mean, I'm sure you have too, but I've seen this like in my own family.
yeah,
You know, where I would get emails from a family member about this thing, and I go, "Yeah, but that's not completely true.
yeah,
It's like partially true." You
yeah,
know, and here's the part where it's wrong. And then the response I would get back is, no, 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 you're wrong. You've gone off the rails. And no, I'm just listening to multiple sources and trying to get the whole story
yeah,
because I don't want to be misinformed. I want to have the whole story. The funny part of all that, relating back to the film, is that the whole time we think that Teddy
it's
doesn't have
yeah,
the whole story, and he
yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah. And that's where I would argue, you know, granted, the director and the actors aren't going to listen to me, but in my head, the more powerful conversation is if he's not right.
Yeah.
Because
No, I agree with you.
right, if he's not right, then we have to address the fact we are creating a world in which conspiracy theories run amok to the point where it's really hampering us from actually dealing with real problems.
Yeah, I think it would have been a more powerful ending had she escaped,
Yeah,
as she does,
yeah,
um, and then just gone back to her life,
yeah,
um, and not had that, you know, that last 5 or 8 minutes of the film where it goes, oh well, he was right
yeah,
and we're not worth saving, and you
yeah,
know that's it. I think it would have been a more powerful ending
yeah,
to leave it up in the air,
yeah,
you know, rather than tie it up. And I'm not sure. obviously, I'm not sure what the director and the writers or whatever trying to do by tying it up the way they did. Maybe just make a twist end. They're trying to do an M. Night Shyamalan gives a twist ending or something, but
Yeah,
um,
but to me, I don't know. Again, to me, I thought it was really a powerful allegory about the reality that we're creating not just enemies, but foreign, alien bodies that we have to deal with.
yeah.
And we're creating conspiracy theories and kind of these sinister plots behind everything that has kept us from actually addressing the real issues that we all need to address.
And maybe as I'm thinking about it, maybe what the director is trying to say is that both sides do this,
Yeah.
right?
No, I
I
really,
know, I know
yeah,
that at least in the film, for the majority of the film, the more sort of family-oriented, conservative,
yeah,
MAGA, whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
that's like Jesse's character, right?
yeah,
These are the folks that well, they're the ones that are creating all and in the end, well, he's right. So maybe both sides are kind of, I
yeah,
think maybe that's what the director's saying is that both sides do this, right? We
yeah,
both get in our informational silos, and that is all. That's all there is. We're not hearing anything else.
yeah.
And yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was also really interesting, kind of the elements of corporate culture and we tend to treat people below us as cogs or weirdos or kind of disposable people.
Foot soldiers, cannon fodder.
You know,
Yeah,
like I love the scene where you get the sense that Michelle has been warned that things have to change in the company, and so she's like, "Remember, you're free to leave at 5:30, unless, of course, you have work." Like, it's like, it's that kind of thing of you can leave, like,
it's an interesting, and I think that plays into an interesting part of this film in that it doesn't fit neatly into any real category.
yes,
It's got comedic elements like that.
yeah,
It's a drama. It's a psychological thriller. It's a little bit of a horror movie.
yeah,
It's science fiction. I mean, it
yeah,
doesn't fit neatly into really anything,
yeah,
which is at least makes it interesting.
yeah.
Um, so
No,
what else, John? What else did you find?
I don't know. I felt some of the kind of quotes were really interesting.
Hmm?
At the end when the aliens decide, we can't be saved, they go, they are imperiling their life together. When will they learn? And I really feel like, again, that's when I heard that. I'm like, I kind of feel like in a weird way, this is like a movie that speaks to what you and I have been trying to do, which
Right.
is trying to tell people we have to live together. And
Hmm.
if we don't do it right, we're going to pay consequences.
Yeah.
We just are.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament at least to what we do
Yeah.
in that 2 weeks ago when we had Stephen Fowler on with us,
Yeah.
that he didn't know which one of us was which.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
He said, well, you guys are doing a good job because I don't know which one of you is conservative and which is more liberal progressive. I don't know. And I said, oh, good. Should we let that cat out of the bag? And you said, no, no, let's let it.
Yeah. And another, I'm gonna take the coloring out of the language, but another powerful line to me was at one time when Michelle is trying to get away from um I'm blanking his name again.
Eddie?
Teddy, and she says to him, you're a loser, I'm a winner, and that is effing life." And I really do
Yeah.
think I I really feel like part of our problem is that we have a tendency as human beings, I think this is a human thing.
Hmm.
We have a tendency um to basically want to silo things. So you're either this or that, instead of, we don't like nuance
Right.
and we don't like to hold things in tension. but I think for the betterment of our species, we have to start developing the ability to be able to hold things in tension and to say it's not binary. It's not a binary choice. It's not you're bad or you're good. It's a reality that there's nuance to life and we need to accept and be able to celebrate and to navigate nuance.
Yeah, certainly, and absolutely, people are not that. People
Yeah.
are not just one or the other, you know. Well, if you vote one way, you're terrible,
Yeah.
you know, regardless. No, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, or this idea that especially, it's really creeped into evangelical Christianity, which is you have to be a Republican if you're an evangelical. And, you know, and what's fascinating to me is if you peel that away a little bit and say, well, how do black evangelicals vote? They overwhelmingly vote for Democrats. And so you're like, so what does that mean? Let's have a conversation about that. That white evangelicals at 80% vote for Republicans and black evangelicals at 80% vote for Democrats.
Hmm.
What's the difference here? And but again, that requires nuance in your conversation. That requires this idea of not bifurcating everything. And we're just have a horrible tendency to it's got to be this or that. It's got to be black or white. It's got to be clear. It's got to be
Yeah.
distinct.
I'll tell you, one of our former colleagues, who is a good friend of mine, I was in an accountability group with him for a long while. Um, he's one of the most progressive people I know.
Yeah.
Politically, you look at his Facebook page, and every day is some kind of rant against Republicans or Donald Trump or whatever.
Yeah.
And yet, as far as his Christianity goes, he's very orthodox.
Yeah.
So, so it's really an interesting, you could have some amazing conversations with this fella. And yeah, I mean, we're not, you couldn't just say, well, he's progressive, so he's that,
Yeah.
because he wasn't, and he's still my friend. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I think Christians need to realize that the worldview we live in was not the worldview Christianity was birthed in.
mhm,
And so the Christian ethic doesn't fit neatly into the camps of the modern world. And yet we tend to try to push it into it. We tend to try to flatten out the edges things to, instead of allowing the teachings of Jesus to challenge us and to make us recognize that we have a tendency to ignore the things we want to ignore instead of be transformed by them. I think that is part of in an interesting way what this movie's trying to do is it's trying to make us have this conversation about the boxes we put people in and the camps we assume people have to fit into, and that's a worthwhile conversation.
it's interesting because as you're saying that, I'm thinking of the old metaphor, square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
And did you catch what one of the production companies on this film is called?
No, what is it?
Square Peg.
That's fun.
Did you not?
That's fun.
So anyway, um, yeah, I think that this is one of those films that just kind of challenges any kind of conventionality.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
I mean, look, we've said this many times, we don't make any, you want to try to hide who we are, right? I tend to be the conservative guy. I tend to like traditional stuff. But a film like this is challenging, and that's okay. I don't have a problem being challenged,
Yeah.
because if I weren't challenged, then I am sitting in my silo and only hearing what pleases my ears. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think this is again a challenge to us, a reminder to us as Christians that um, Jesus's primary work in life was being a healer, and healers went to the margins of society where people have been forced out, where cracks and fissures in the larger community had formed, and their work was to help bring those people that had been pushed out or marginalized back into the community. And
Mhm.
that requires, before anything else, that requires you to start at the idea that the person in front of me is a beloved child of God. The person in front of me is a brother or sister in humanity, right? And to me, this movie, one of the things it does in a very weird, funky way, is it makes you think about why these two characters can't see each other as humans. Because Michelle, even though, granted, at the end, again, that's why I hate the ending, grant,
He's not.
even though she is an alien, when you think she isn't, she is still struggling to see Teddy's humanity.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. What do we want to say about the memory scenes? Because there were several memory scenes, and all the memory scenes are in black and white,
Yes, I
or
love.
washed out tones, right?
Yeah, I did want to. I loved the idea of. Granted, at the time, I thought his mother had died, but I
Mhm.
love
So
that.
did I. For a long part of the film, I thought she was not there. Yeah.
In the shots, he is holding on to her like a balloon,
Hmm.
and she's floating in the air, and he's holding on to her. And to me, I thought that was a beautiful metaphor about how sometimes we hold on to people in unhealthy ways when we're grieving,
Hmm.
and we kind of drag them around, and we don't allow them to, we don't let go, and
Right.
and it's a, I think it's a more helpful metaphor in some ways about trauma than it is about people we've lost, but it's still a powerful metaphor about how we tend to hold on, and they're kind of like balloons we carry around.
Yeah. Yeah, although I would argue that our we're dragging our baggage around. It's not floating, it's dragging us downward, not
Yes.
upward.
Yeah, yeah.
But I see the metaphor, and I agree with you. I think it's that's there was some really powerful stuff there. And in that particular scene, okay, so you have um what's her name? Emma Stone's character, right? Michelle,
So,
um explaining to Teddy, and so this is why I thought, the mother was dead, because she was floating, but there was a wheelchair there and the medical equipment, and she was still attached to it. She just
yeah,
wasn't sitting in the chair, she was
yeah,
floating.
yeah.
But she's explained to Teddy, oh, we're going to take care of everything, we're going to pay all the bills, and we're going to, and you're like, yeah, but that's not bringing my mom back.
Well,
Like,
I thought was
you're
interesting
giving,
too
you're paying
is,
me lip service.
yeah, and one of the reasons I thought she was dead was really all she offered to pay for was, we'll make sure we pay for the funeral expenses. And I was like, okay, there's a lot
Yeah.
more that you could help pay for.
Right, exactly. So,
Um,
all in all, this is I want to call it a slow burn.
yeah.
It is a very talky kind of movie. Um, but I think it's also a real thinking movie.
No, I didn't look. I know that I don't know if Emma Stone was nominated. I don't know if Jesse Plemons was nominated for acting awards,
I couldn't say off the top of my head. I
but
looked, but I don't recall.
I'll be honest, I thought they were amazing together. I thought the dialogues, the discussions and arguments between them were just, they were powerful.
And she was, obviously, I mean, this is a statement about her physical
Yeah.
appearance, but she really kind of has that almost alien quality to her appearance throughout the film. So you're like, well, maybe she is,
Yeah.
but like they're crazy. So there's a real tension
Yeah.
that carries through this film, even right up to the point of the reveal.
Yeah.
Right? There's this real tension that you're like, is she? Or
Absolutely.
so, friends, if we've spoiled it for you, sorry, we did give you a spoiler warning ahead of time. It's an interesting film, and I think having had the discussion and having seen some of the videos that I've watched, that I might go back and watch it again, just knowing what's happening and try to understand it more.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see, but we're going to wrap up the
Yeah.
discussion of Begonia. It's a film.
Yeah. It's a film. Here you go. Yeah, I think it really has some really interesting ideas, and those are movies I like, is really interesting ideas. But it's really done in a very quirky, weird, kind of off the wall way. So you
Yeah.
have to be prepared for that, or I feel like when you're not prepared for that, you sometimes lose sight of those powerful questions and thoughts you could have.
Yeah. So if you are going to watch it, just remember it's a tense film, and it's going to challenge you a little bit.
Yeah.
So, all right, John, I named this one last week, so
I have one,
you're
so.
up.
I'm going to suggest we're going to continue with the Oscar stuff, and
Hmm.
on unfortunately you have to pay for it, so I'm sorry, but Amazon Prime you can get. I'm sure other places too. I think a good nice change of pace would be Blue Moon,
Blue Moon.
which Ethan Hawke is nominated for.
Hmm.
It's about the guy who was a producing partner with, I believe, Hammerstein before Rogers and Hammerstein,
Okay.
and it's set on the night where Oklahoma, their first musical together, opens, and this guy is being cut out of the partnership. He had a successful partnership, but obviously not as successful as Rogers and Hammerstein, and so it's kind of an interesting one night movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I've just heard reports about how dealing with basically dealing with your career and your life radically changing. So that'd be
Sounds
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
At least I have an idea of what this one's about,
Yeah.
as opposed to going into the last one.
Yes.
All right, friends, I think that's going to be it for this week. The film for next week is Blue Moon. You'll find it on Amazon Prime as a probably one-time pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You may find it other places if you look for it. Until next Friday, keep on finding God in the dark. We'll see you all next week.
Like,
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. And friends, if you find anything that's really wonderful or entertaining or helpful in your Christian walk, we want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. We publish every Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we hope that you continue to find these videos and these discussions entertaining and informative. Take care and God bless. Bye.